Welcome to the FFS podcast, where we talk business, finance, growth, and all the stuff business owners usually only discuss after their third coffee or second panic attack. I'm Rachael Chadwick Harrison, Chartered Accountant, Business Advisor, and MD of one of Warwickshire's leading firms, Chadwick Accountants. I'm spending most of my time helping SMEs make smarter financial decisions and occasionally stopping people setting fire to cash in ways they didn't even realise was possible. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest hidden costs in business, recruitment. Because let's be honest, one bad hire can cost more than a tax investigation and cause twice the stress. Joining me today is David Dan from Coreus, a business focused on helping SMEs attract, recruit, and retain the right talent. David, great to have you on.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Brilliant. So for people listening who may not know you or Coreus yet, give us a bit of an overview. Who are you? What does Coreus do? And what problems are you solving for SMEs?
So thank you again for having me. And we are a boutique talent consultancy. So boutique being small, but also highly specialised. And we help businesses with talent challenges who can't resolve that challenge in-house. Either they don't have the expertise or the time or the resources. We're really passionate about attracting and retaining great talent for businesses, helping our clients avoid bad hiring. So I set the business up, and was a big influence in setting the business up was one hire that took down a department in a company that I worked at. And that hire was I'm sure he was a great individual. So the connection between great people practices and the bottom line was there to be seen. It wasn't a fluffy HR administrative task. It was a strategic, really important investment in your current team to find the best people and how that connects with growth. So that's the space that we work in. And what else? I love sport. And I love games, and bringing that into our work and fun and joy is really important to how we work and that kind of ingredient. And I think also music. So the business is called Coreus, and the kind of metaphor is if you get people practices right, you bring that kind of joy of movement, starling murmuration of birds that play and they move and communication.
You all move in sync.
Yeah, in sync, in chorus. And there's almost invisible communication. No one's bounding into each other. It's fun and positive. So that's a little bit about.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, David. I mean, recruitment feels like one of those things every business owner thinks they can do themselves, right up until it goes horribly wrong. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences myself with doing it and it not going well.
Yes.
What are you seeing SMEs struggle with most right now?
Wow, I mean, that's a great question because we're living in such a changing time right now. So I would say there's more great people looking for work than there ever has been. So an abundance of great candidates. That doesn't really sound like too much of a problem to have for kind of businesses that might have an empty seat. But picking the right candidate, sourcing and picking the right candidate is the sort of work that we do. I think there's still, with an abundance of candidates, getting it right. We don't tend to work with large employers that are hiring at scale and are therefore utilising really amazing AI tools and things like that. So that subjective process of advertising, sourcing, selecting, interviewing, offering, waiting for the person to start, then maybe there's counter offers in play and all sorts of notice periods. There's still lots of obstacles and pitfalls along that way. And so I don't think they've gone anywhere. I think coming back to the start, what I am seeing, what you said at the start, which is the challenge around recruiting and retaining talent, the cost of turnover. The challenge when you get it wrong, and you just mentioned that you've got it wrong, those experiences and the time that's invested in training and onboarding and being really open about what matters to you, your customers, your customer relations, your CRM, all your data, it's so sensitive that when it doesn't go right, that can be really painful. And That still exists, and I think that's really strong. I think in the current time where there's so much going on around AI and whatever else, political movements, Trump, everything else, energy and time wasted is maybe even more felt now than ever before.
It's not just, like you say, it's not just the financial impact, is it?
Yeah.
But there is actually a cost to that time that you've put in. I mean, I find when I get recruitment wrong, not only have you got potentially a payoff, that you've then got a backlogged role that really needs to be desperately filled, and you've got to invest all that time in training again.
And I think this space is really fascinating. So it's the space between, tell me about the best hire or the best person you've ever worked with, and you could think of all these wonderful things about how they made you feel. What impact did they have on your life? What impact did they have on your colleagues and the people around you? Versus the worst. Think of the worst person you've ever worked with, and maybe how they made you feel on a Sunday night before you even go into it. You haven't even started your working week.
They make you not want to turn up.
Sleep. I think the space is fascinating. And just coming back to my example earlier, I said about the hire that went to Cambridge and was fast tracked through because our CEO went to Cambridge. So the person's got to be good, and they were terrible. People left because of that individual. And I think it's really fascinating also that you've got employees sometimes that have worked for somewhere for a long time. I just met Beth, your marketing manager, who's been here 3 years. That's quite actually a long time. And people give blood, sweat and tears. So for someone to be recruited in for a leadership role, which can dictate the culture of a business and the customer service, I think that's worth investing in to get it right. And that's the space that I'm working in, and I think is actually really interesting. I'll add something to that as well, which is like, what's your go-to selection process, your go-to question that you always ask every candidate, and something that you lock in to avoid bad hiring? And I think that's a really interesting thing to do, to start picking up on a trend, so you can start to see how you can interview better for the investment, for the better of your people and your business. Is it a question that you can start to ask the same every single candidate from now on, so you can start to see a trend of how they talk? Do they shut up? Are they really concise? Are they thinking about you? Whatever their tells are through the recruitment process, no selection process is 100% bulletproof. And so it comes into this feeling of almost like an art form, where it's more about your style and your judgment. But there's a marriage there between objectivity, a good quality process, and you doing something because it feels right and your own intuition picking up, which is great, but there is a marriage there. There has to be both.
Well, I personally think that I am, and I think many business owners are really biased when they interview.
Yeah, we all are, yeah.
Yeah, we all are massively. I find if I get on with a candidate, and I think maybe they're the best one, but they're not necessarily are.
Yes.
So I find I always have to have external. I had an experience where I interviewed 3 people for the role after we'd gone through telephone, etc.
Yeah.
One was a clear no. And I was left with 2, and I was like, I'm bringing the externals in because I'm not sure. They're opposite ends of experience.
Yes.
So one is making a big jump in his career, and the other one, she would be taking a little bit of a step down.
Yeah.
But I really liked her, and she really wanted the job. She massively wanted the job. She listened to every podcast we've ever done. She knew all our socials. She knew everything from the website. She knew everybody, what their hobbies and things were. She'd done her research.
Yes.
And when I sat down with the externals, because I had 2 externals with me at the time for the final interview, they said, she's not your girl. And I was like, what? Why not? Well, she doesn't actually want the job. She wants the culture here. She's not going to get down and do the job, and she's going to talk and distract the rest of them. He is your hire. And you know what? He has been brilliant.
Oh, isn't that amazing? So on that, I mean, I once got a job and I couldn't understand why it wasn't the right job for me. It was in the recruitment, in the people world, hired by people experts, and it wasn't right for me, and I wasn't right for the business. What does career development training look like to me as an individual? But it's the day-to-day job.
Knowing what you're going to be doing every day.
What are you actually doing? What's the split? do you really want to be doing that? Is it more operational? Is it more manual? Is it more strategic? What does the actual business need you to be asking in meetings? Are you going to be asking that, or are you actually, you're not that person? Coming back to that height, you're someone that wants to be more social or work for a business, you want to be interested in the culture, but not the day-to-day job. So in part, I would feel like your advisors might have missed a beat, because if you can hire people that are culturally aligned, statistically, they're more likely to work harder, work overtime, not complain about it, be resilient to bad leadership and bad management, because they believe and they love what you're doing and your culture.
I still think you've got to like doing the job as well.
But the day-to-day, I agree with you. And I love that point that they picked up on that. I think that's absolutely bang on.
I've got to admit,
That you're capable of doing the job.
I will take some of your advice there. We recently scored 9.7 out of 10 for our work-life balance here.
Yes.
It doesn't include mine.
Yeah.
As the business owner. But for everybody else, they feel that we really have the work-life balance.
Yes.
Right. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
So what do you think the biggest mistake SMEs are making now when they're trying to attract those quality candidates?
I would say not being authentic.
Ah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, I think, isn't that true of us all? We're trying to understand, self-awareness, who we are, what matters.
And we all Glassdoor a company these days.
Rose-tinted glasses, David at our best, Rachael at our best, the firm at our best. But actually, in reality, what's going on? And that's why I love that survey which you did with your staff, and really understanding what do people love about working here. So, I would encourage any business owner to do what you've done, which is in a selection process, bring probably the staff lunch, bring people in that are culturally aligned. They might not be in that technical department, but they know the business. Bring them in as a cultural check for new recruits and say, what do you love about working here? And I bet you, although it might be the tax department versus the bookkeeping department, it's like, do you know what I love about working? There's a common theme, and that's what we're about. And I think that's really powerful to going out to the local community, making a difference and hiring people that will be happy, that will stay long term and perform. That's way better than hiring people that just want money, if that's all they want, and then they leave again because they can accept another offer.
They do, they just go, don't they? And it's tying them into that culture that's so important. I think it's so interesting that we have a very hybrid policy here where you can work from home.
Yeah.
Vast majority of them don't use it.
Well, you've got the choice. Isn't that amazing? And I think we are addicted at the moment in life to flexibility, autonomy and speed. We want things when we want. But to have a choice, I think is really powerful. Now, some businesses maybe don't, like manufacturing clients that I work with. They're on site. There are fixed hours. But I think, again, it's just being authentic, because some people really want that.
But we'll all do a Glassdoor look to see if you are being authentic or not.
Yeah.
So recruitment is hard enough, but keeping good people, it feels even harder.
Yeah.
What's the biggest reason good employees leave businesses?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that makes me think of regrettable and non-regrettable hires. Sometimes it's good. I think there are some industries which have a lack of turnover and it's unhealthy.
They stagnate.
I think of the hospitality industry, where it's all about customer experience, and they're on their toes. They're mostly, in luxury resort, 5-star resorts around the world, your tenure is 2 years. Mm-hmm. I personally think, to answer your question, it's about locking into what people want. And I do think it's important to know what your staff want. And it changes. It might be your core values, if you like, don't change. I value positivity, openness and character. Those are things I love. And I don't think that will ever change. But I know I've lost really good team members who value being social. And I speak to people all day. So I think that's a big tick in my line of work. All we're doing is talking to people all day. But what that individual loved was to be in the office, sharing, finding out about people's weekends. And that's great. I wasn't able to offer that environment, especially during the pandemic where we were all working from home. Knowing what your staff want according to those 5 things and why, what's going on.
Well, yeah, I think a big key to retaining good talent is we do a staff survey every 6 months, and it's the same 7 or 8 questions. And one of those is, how would you like to be rewarded? There's different choices on there. So, and it's just interesting to see, like you said, how it changes. That one of the things that was quite low before was team days and family days. Then that ranked really high in the last survey. So it just gives you a taster of what you need to give
And sometimes you try things, like I love your external outbound marketing, business development. You've got to try things. And so when you react to the staff, you organise a kind of away picnic and no one turns up.
Well, we took
so then you think, oh, why bother?
Well, we took them all to France last weekend. So
that's
they're
amazing.
all quite happy at the
But
moment.
I think what you just said struck me back to something I had. There's another personality profiling tool called Hogan, which is a really deep one, and there's 3 reports. One which is like you at your best. What's Rachael like when you go into a room? The other side is more around your motivations, your values, and the other side, the last one, is around your dark side. What do you like when things are too much? What are your strengths that you might overplay? Anyway, one of the things I got from that was that I love recognition. How do you want to be rewarded and recognised? I want to be thanked, acknowledged when you do a bit of outstanding work. But not everyone, interestingly, wants a round of applause in the office, be recognised with an email. Sometimes people are much more intrinsically motivated.
A one-to-one conversation.
Yeah. And in fact, they could be repulsed by the idea of a big Employee of the Month celebration. It's so interesting, isn't it?
It really is.
One size does not fit all.
100% agree with you there.
But I think it is important to connect with your people to avoid unhealthy turnover, to spot elephants in the room, and avoid the costs of replacement, which can be significant. Coming back to the start, you were talking about the cost of turnover. There's research that says it's 4 times your basic salary. Who knows? Where does that value come from? The time taken in sourcing someone else, they're replaced, they don't work out. You then have to find someone else. I mean, it's significant disruption to customer service, to just health and well-being. How can that be just 4 times a person's salary?
It's hard to measure, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. So at what stage would you say that a growing business should bring in recruitment support instead of just trying to manage it themselves?
I think you ideally want to recruit yourself directly. You're more likely to recruit people that will stay and be a high performer if they come through something like an internal referral. Who's the best? Guys, we've got a vacancy. Who's the best person you've ever worked with that's done this? And you get some names. Statistically, they're most likely the best, hires. I think I love the idea in the markets that I operate in, which is candidate scarce, candidate short markets, that businesses can be projecting their values, their business out to local communities. Say, this is us. I know there are other accountants, but this is what we stand for. You're more likely to recruit directly through your own marketing people that are tuned with your culture. And that's a great way of reducing your reliance on recruitment agencies and the cost associated with using recruitment agencies. However, there's obviously still a massive value in getting quality external help through either sourcing, selection, or retaining something that's so valuable and so expensive, which is that talent piece, the costs associated with staffing and losing people. And, I think it's no healthy way of doing business is just using recruitment consultants. And I work with an accountancy company, met them a couple of weeks ago, that are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on search fees.
Wow.
External consultants. And surely there's a healthier way of doing recruitment, of bringing that in-house, that will bring other added value than just a cost saving. Having said that, sometimes when a vacancy is sensitive or time sensitive, urgent and important, you can get some wonderful help out there. And I think recruiters can have a bad name, maybe often justifiably so, based on lots of people's experiences, but you can get great recruitment and talent support. Like, you can get great cleaners, accountants, lawyers. There's some wonderful, insightful support out there that can reduce risk and improve your chances of really fixing a problem.
I think there was a real golden nugget in what you said there. I think recruitment's got to be one of the last things you delegate. For as long as you can, you need to be involved, even if it's just at the very end process.
Yeah.
Being the business owner, personally, it was a mistake I made when I delegated recruitment, and suddenly the quality of candidates coming in wasn't aligned with culture. It was completely wrong. And I realised that's an area I can't delegate. I need to be involved in, even though they're not directly reporting to me. I need to be involved in that. I need to assess the culture fit.
Yes.
So important. So what's one recruitment myth that you would happily ban forever?
What do you mean? Rephrase that question. I don't understand.
Is there a recruitment myth going around that you just can't stand hearing? Like, recruiters seem to think they just throw loads of candidates at a client and one of them will stick.
Well, I think there are loads of crap recruiters, dodgy recruiters, and there are loads of dodgy, I know this, builders or anything, teachers. The same applies in any industry. I think what's different about recruitment and funny about recruitment is that everyone's got a recruitment story, whether it's your first job in a supermarket or a shoe shop, or it's your latest job, where a recruitment process is, or your onboarding process. So that's a really interesting point, which is, where does recruitment end and you start? People are still often new in jobs and you think the recruitment process starts, but actually, until you're 3 months in, statistically, like 75% of people want to quit in the first few months because you just don't know where the shared folders are. You don't know who's going to ask to. You realise that the employer isn't perfect, because no one's perfect. No business is perfect. I think my big myth buster and biggest frustration is employers sitting down to have a chat with a candidate and just be unstructured. I think a lack of structure is high risk. And I think I will turn that around and say it's the responsibility of the candidate, the job seeker, to not say in 1 year's time or 6 months' time, oh, I didn't know that about, I think you've got a responsibility to know, where is this job going in an ideal world according to you? So they can find out from you, how is this person acting?
Oh, you would love my development plans, likely.
Yeah, I think there has to be employee responsibility and employer responsibility in getting recruitment right for, do you know what, everyone in the chain, but probably most importantly, in my opinion, my lens, is the customer. It's all about the customer experience.
Right, let's have a quick fire round, some short answers to these. Best interview question you've ever heard?
I suppose Elon Musk's opening question, which is, can you tell me the story of your career? Tell me the story of your life. I think it's a really important one. From his perspective, he only wants to hire people that are solve the most significant problems. But I think that's a great way to really understand someone's journey.
I like that one. I'm going to steal that one as well. Worst CV cliche?
Worst CV cliche? Putting something in your personal interests that you don't, like somebody says exercise, but they don't really exercise. They just haven't got anything. But just don't put it there. It'll enjoy the white space of the CV.
I get fed up of
karate, skateboarding, snowboarding. So sometimes I go, when did you last go snowboarding? And it's like, 3 years ago. Well,
is it really relevant?
Yeah. Why put it there? So maybe I'm being cruel.
I don't know. I get fed up of seeing work as team player as well as on own initiative.
The other one is lying about dates of employment. So bang on about statistics, but apparently 80% of people lie on a CV.
Really?
I used to work. Is
that because they're not going snowboarding?
I led recruitment for an insurance business, and we outsourced the background screening to an organisation because they had the FCA, and there was a process to that. So to understand, and people lie on their dates all the time. And there's a funny side to that, which is I just say don't lie, but also the importance of reference checking. And this has come really interestingly to bite Starmer on the bottom recently, because his biggest headache of all the problems that our Prime Minister has been solving has been to do with background screening and
has.
vetting and not taking that problem seriously enough. So I would say lying on CVs. It's not good for anyone.
80% of them are doing it.
It's not good for the individual because you're more likely to be hired for a role you're not actually capable of doing. It's not suitable. You don't have the experience for. But as an organisation, protecting your customer, understanding, coming out of Elon Musk, understanding their career journey.
What's the biggest red flag in an interview?
I love what eBay used to do. So I used to work with eBay, and eBay would ask the first question, a very open question, because a lot of their work was international and online. And they'd ask a very open first question to see how long someone goes on for before they check in.
Oh.
And I think that's really insightful to understand whether someone is thinking about who's listening and their conscientiousness and their basically customer service.
Bit of EQ.
EQ, yeah, bang on.
That's really interesting. I love hearing things like that. I come across things all the time and I write little notes and go, add this to the interview back.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear really good things, you should take it on board and definitely just implement it. And I think recruitment, personally, is always evolving process in a business. You make one bad hire and I always look back and go, where did that go wrong in the process?
Yes, yeah.
What questions could I have asked that would have perhaps shown me their true colours in the interview?
So I do selection consultancy work with companies, and I often, the penny only drops at the very end of the process where the client goes, now I get what you do. They're not really listening through the process of like designing the questions, interviewing the candidates. We come to the end of the interview and they go, wow, I thought that was brilliant. What did you think? And I'm thinking, you know, it goes back to the start of what we were looking for, what was really important, what's non-negotiable, what do you really not want to see? And there are so many data points in a recruitment process to understand what makes that person tick that you can then spot trends. And we've interviewed thousands of people that we now can spot consistent trends that are indicative of what you can expect if you hire that person. From the way they present their CV to how do they turn up early? Do they research the YouTube videos and look at them? What does that mean? Actually, you might want to hire someone that's too busy to actually have looked at all your YouTube videos, but shows some kind of proactive nature. All of these things, they're pick-up points to understand, is this person right for us?
I always like to know that they've done a little bit of research on the business.
It's not random.
They may know my whole backstory or anything, but I'd like to know that they know a little bit about us, you know, and check out our socials.
For your customer, for your product, for your team, it's not random recruitment. There has to be a way of de-risking that process or improving the likelihood you're going to hire someone who will be a good performer. And if it is total you in the dark, what can you do to bring some light into that process?
Thank you. Final question for you then. What are the most pointless interview questions?
We had one, a multinational insurance firm. What would be on your dream desert island? You know,
what are you going to gain from that?
Totally fanciful questions that don't relate to anything. I think is a waste of time. You've got 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes for the candidate. It's not enough time to go through all the things that are really, really important, that are unique to each other. What's their unique skills and strengths? Where are their best? What are the conditions that allow you to be at your best? Which is completely different to your strengths. What do you value? Tell me about where you grew up. Tell me about your parents. What did they do? What's your time like? You haven't got all the time. So anything irrelevant or fanciful, I probably wait till your lunch with the team or something.
Yeah, that does make good sense. Well, David, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a brilliant conversation. There's a huge lesson here for business owners. Recruitment isn't just a HR issue. It's financial decision, growth decision, and often the difference between scaling successfully or standing still. If people want to connect with you or learn more about Coreus, where's the best place to find you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, go to our website. I'd be really happy to speak to anyone that's interested in what we've talked about.
Well, thank you all for listening to the FFS podcast today. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you subscribe, share it with another business owner, and remember, until next time, FFS, check the numbers.